Something about the state of professional golf right now just doesn't feel normal. And honestly, as PGA Tour fans, we've watched LIV Golf cause chaos before. We've seen the arguments, the lawsuits, the signed contracts, the billions. But what's happening right now feels completely different. It's not just another headline anymore. It's starting to feel like we're actually watching the whole thing come apart in real time. What makes this moment so significant is that two separate developments over the last few weeks suddenly connected everything together in a way nobody really saw coming. One story is about the money behind LIV Golf finally running out, or at least the people controlling that money deciding they've seen enough, and the other is about Rory McIlroy, the one player who has been the loudest voice against LIV since day one, finally breaking his silence in a way that stopped the entire golf world cold. And the crazy part is that these two things happening at the exact same time isn't a coincidence, it's a collision. Because for 3 years, LIV had the Saudi billions as a shield. Every criticism bounced off. Every financial concern got buried under another cash injection. But now that shield is gone. And suddenly, everything Rory has been saying since 2022 is landing completely differently. If you're a real golf fan, you can already feel that this moment is bigger than just one press conference or one funding announcement. This feels like a turning point for the entire sport. The kind of moment that people will look back on and say, that's when everything shifted. So before we get into everything that's unfolding, do me a quick favor. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and help us grow this community. If you love honest golf conversation from fans who follow this stuff every single week, you're going to love what we're building here. Now, let's get into exactly what happened. And why nobody in golf is talking about anything else right now. Here's something that still feels almost impossible to say out loud. The Saudi Public Investment Fund, one of the wealthiest sovereign wealth funds on the entire planet, looked at LIV Golf and decided it was too expensive to keep running. Let that sink in for a second. We're not talking about a struggling startup running out of runway. We're talking about a fund backed by the Saudi Crown Prince himself, walking away from a project they personally built from nothing. The numbers involved here are genuinely staggering. Since LIV launched in 2022, the Saudi PIF pumped over $5.3 billion into the league. At its peak, LIV was burning through roughly $100 million every single month just to keep the lights on. And despite all of that spending, despite the guaranteed contracts, the television deals with Fox and TNT Sports, the new partnerships with Rolex, HSBC, and Salesforce, the returns simply never matched the investment. LIV's non-US operations alone reported losses of nearly $600 million in 2024, and the cracks started showing before the official announcement even came. Greg Norman, the man who built LIV from the ground up, was already gone by December 2025. New CEO Scott O'Neill came in, rebranded the messaging, switched to 72-hole events to finally earn world ranking points. But none of it was enough to change the fundamental reality. Then LIV quietly canceled its New Orleans tournament scheduled for June. That wasn't a scheduling conflict. That was the first domino falling publicly. When the PIF officially confirmed they were pulling funding after the 2026 season, it ended weeks of speculation that had been building across every major financial outlet from the Wall Street Journal to the Financial Times. The statement from the PIF was clinical and cold. The investment was no longer consistent with their current strategy. No fanfare, no tribute, just a door closing quietly on the most expensive experiment in sports history. And that raises the question nobody has been able to answer yet. How did it ever get to this point in the first place? Nobody expected the LIV questions to come at the Truist Championship. Rory McIlroy had just shot a 4-under 67 at Quail Hollow, climbing into contention at a course where he's been dominant for years. The post-round presser should have been about birdies and ball striking and weekend strategy, but the moment he sat down, the entire conversation shifted, because the golf media had been waiting for this, waiting for Rory to say something, and he did not disappoint. What made his response so fascinating is what he chose not to say. McIlroy didn't gloat. He didn't stand up and deliver the victory speech that 3 years of being the loudest anti-LIV voice in the sport might have earned him. Instead, he was measured, deliberate, and somehow even more devastating because of it. He said he didn't need to rehash his views on LIV because everyone already knew them. And then, almost casually, he delivered the line that immediately went everywhere. When one of the wealthiest sovereign wealth funds in the world decides that a project is too expensive for them, he said, that sort of says something. And he said it with a laugh. Not a cruel laugh, just the laugh of someone who has been proven right and is trying very hard not to make too big a deal about it. But then came the part that genuinely stunned people, because McIlroy didn't just twist the knife about the funding collapse, he issued a direct challenge to every LIV player considering their future. He said if you want to be the most competitive golfer you can be, the PGA Tour is the place to be. And if you don't want to play here, he said, that says something about you. That's not a diplomatic statement. That's a challenge wrapped inside a compliment, wrapped inside a warning. And every LIV player heard it exactly the way it was intended. But the real story isn't just what Rory said. It's about the players who now have to figure out what comes next. Here's the part that nobody in golf has a clean answer for yet. Because even with LIV's funding gone and the Saudi PIF officially walking away, the situation doesn't resolve itself neatly. There's no automatic reunion, no handshake moment where everyone comes back together and the sport simply moves forward. What's actually coming is messier, slower, and far more revealing about the true character of everyone involved. PGA Tour CEO Brian Rolap has been refreshingly honest about this. He doesn't currently have a plan for mass reintegration of LIV players, and that's not just a logistical problem. It's a political one, because the PGA Tour membership has real scars from the fracture that happened when those players left. Some of them left loudly, some of them burned bridges publicly. And the players who stayed, who ground through the uncertainty and kept competing every week without guaranteed money, haven't forgotten that. Rolap has to balance what's good for the business against what's fair to the people who never left. And LIV itself still has 7 events remaining on its 2026 schedule, running through the end of August. Life goes on in the short term. Players still tee it up, leaderboards still happen. But everyone inside that ecosystem is now playing out the string while quietly planning for a future that looks nothing like what they signed up for when they took those guaranteed contracts. What makes this moment so significant beyond just one tour's financial troubles is what it reveals. About ambition and consequences, about loyalty and leverage, about what professional golf actually values when the money stops talking. Players like McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, Scottie Scheffler, and the entire generation that stayed on the PGA Tour kept competing in the toughest environment in the sport every single week. And now the world is watching to see whether the players who left can find their way back, and whether the sport is actually big enough to let them. Honestly, depending on how the next few months unfold, this could either become the most important reunification story professional golf has ever told, or the most bitter, complicated ending to a $3 billion rivalry that never fully delivered on its promise. Either way, everybody in golf is watching now, so let me know in the comments. Do you think the PGA Tour should welcome LIV players back with open arms, or should there be consequences for the ones who left loudly? And if you enjoyed this kind of honest golf conversation, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We cover the stories that actually matter in professional golf every single week, and we're just getting started.